Answers in Genesis and Cedarville College present Answers with Ken Ham, a 12-part video series defending the Bible from the very first verse. Today's question, where did the races come from? And now, Ken Ham.
I want to start this session off with a question. The question I want to ask you is this: how many different races are there in the world today? 1, 6, 8, more than 10, doesn't matter. You know, it's interesting, if I ask that question of a church group without giving them any previous teaching, I find the majority of people will say, well, there's a number of different races, many different races. I have a quote here spoken before the American Association for the Advancement of Science Convention in Atlanta in 1995. This particular scientist said this: race is a social construct derived mainly from perceptions conditioned by events of recorded history, and it has no basic biological reality. You know, the secular world is actually telling us that there's no basic biological reality for different races and so on. In fact, all human beings are classified as Homo sapiens sapiens. We're all the same genus, species, and subspecies. And so therefore, really from a biological perspective, how many races are there? There's only one race of human beings. And of course, this is exactly what the Bible is telling us. The biblical view is that we all go back to Adam and Eve. We all go back to one man and one woman. Of course, this is absolutely vital. It's important to understand there could only be one man to start with and one woman to start with, because only descendants of Adam can be saved. Jesus Christ is called the last Adam. He became one of us. He became of our blood to die for the descendants of Adam. And so that's why it's so important to understand we all go back to one man and one woman. It's so very sad when I have students come and tell me that their Bible college or Christian college professor told them that God must have made a race of men and a race of women to start with. Otherwise, how can you explain all the different so-called races of people? Of course, then you've got a problem. If you're not of Adam's race, then you can't be saved, right? And that's terrible. That doesn't make sense at all. That doesn't fit with what the Bible is telling us. Now, therefore, there's really only one race. Well, the Bible doesn't use the word race, not in the original language, certainly doesn't use the word race. It's obvious that we all go back to Adam and Eve. If that's true, then we have to also answer a question here that's very, very important. In fact, you know the most asked question I get asked anywhere in the world, the most asked question, I've been asked it millions of times, I think. Where did Cain get his wife? I've been asked that question so many times, I talk more about Cain's wife than my own wife these days. It gets very, very embarrassing. You know what's interesting? You heard of the Scopes trial, Dayton, Tennessee in 1925? The man who stood for Christianity there, William Jennings Bryan, when he was being asked questions by the ACLU lawyer, was asked the question, where did Cain get his wife? And you know what? He couldn't answer it. And you know what's sad? I find today most Christians can't answer that question. When I get in Christian radio and talk shows, the most asked question that I'm ever asked is, where did Cain get his wife? It seems to me the church is not giving the answer. In the book Contact, you heard of the movie Contact by Carl Sagan? Well, in that particular book, there's a fictional character, Allie, who goes to a Sunday school teacher and asks questions. And the Sunday school teacher can't ask the question, so Allie's basically booted out of Sunday school. You know one of the questions he puts in there? Where did Cain get his wife? Because Carl Sagan also knew that that's one of the most asked questions, wasn't answered at the Scopes trial, and most people can't answer it today. And yet it's a very, very